Good morning, my friends. It is Saturday, October 1st, 2016. And today's video is about complaining. Complaining is a force, a whirlwind that accomplishes nothing, but it tears down and people flee in your presence. You are like the whirlwind when you're complaining. People flee for their lives, and those who stay there and endure you and me are just hunkered down, hoping it'll go away quickly and maybe they'll die. My last video was about my son Brian, and near the end I said, when I and you feel like complaining, think of him and those that are like him. And believe me, you would not want to go through what he went through. When I think of what he went through, it makes me want to cry, because he was a man who was confined to a bed or a wheelchair, and he was at the mercy of his caretakers. I often thought that he might have been getting severe drugs for things that were misdiagnosed, because he couldn't speak. So he might have had a toothache or a cramp in his leg that could have been mistaken for a seizure. Things like that. I used to wonder, what medicines they've given him, thinking it's for one thing when it's for another. Isn't that a scary thought? Some of the drugs he was given were very powerful, and he must have been very, very frightened. When I look back, he must have experienced some real terror, because he was a prisoner in his own body. He couldn't speak, couldn't tell you what was wrong. People had to guess. And then when the doctors went in to research what was wrong, that wasn't pleasant, because he might have had some severe pain, and they were looking over here when the cause was over here. And so anyway, I guess, make a long story short, when I feel like complaining, it's usually over what I feel someone has done to me. And I have learned, and am learning, to overlook it on the spot. That's what I was taught. Overlook injustice on the spot. Do not, under any circumstances, let it foster, because it turns into an ugly, hating mass. And you can't win. There is no winning with hatred. No one wins. So keep that in mind. Many of you are thinking, I already know that, Ralph. You don't have to tell me. I went through a period in my life of a few years where I suffered paralysis of the mind. I could not function. I could not learn. I had jobs where people would show me things over and over, and I had to quit because I used to think, what is wrong with me? Why can I not learn? And when I think back on those, I left jobs without even getting paid. I was too embarrassed to call and explain my leaving and ask for my pay. I have been through such humiliating, embarrassing things. Sometimes it's a wonder. Like, for instance, I'm thinking about how sometimes I look at younger people and they seem to have their direction scripted. They know what they want to do. And many people have a mind where they absorb things. With me, I didn't have that. And I do not know why. So I have had to fight and claw my way through my life. And as I got older, things became easier. I settled down. But for the early years, I was a mess, and I'm sure anyone that knows me will substantiate that. They'll look back and think, wow, I was a real mess. So while I was going through a lot of this, I got married and had our first child, my son. So that's when I started growing up. And thankfully so. Otherwise I would have had a life of real misery. And there are people who have a life of misery. I can't explain why, because I don't even know why I have gone through what I go through. But I'm afraid, I'm a coward when it comes to giving up. I don't want to do that because I have flirted with giving up, and that presents a real horror. So there's only one way in my mind, that's to keep going. And you wonder if there's a God, where is he? Those issues, you have to come to your own conclusion. There's a lot to learn. And that seems like a dead end, that subject. I don't believe it is. I believe there's a answer to why things happen to us. The answer is to keep going. I hesitate because, your mind wants to know what is going on. You want to know what's making that noise. Why is this happening? And when you can't find out the facts, it's bothersome. So that's one clue about life that I have found, is that there are things that are so bothersome that you can't explain. When I was in the mental health merry-go-round years ago, I often was told, this happens because of this, and you're feeling this way because of neurons in your brain and chemicals, and that makes no sense at all. I don't think they really believe that. I think it's a mystery. But the one thing that I have learned, one of many, is to keep going. So far, I have not been put down on the mat. Like, it's like a boxing match. I'm getting banged around, but I'm still on my feet. I can't imagine being down and it being over. Maybe that's death. But life is punching me mercilessly. But I am still standing, and so are you. And I don't even know why I'm still standing, but I am. And so are you. So I think we've gotten used to it getting beat up. We have a lot of good moments, though, also, that make it worthwhile to live. What alternative do we have? Right? Instead of complaining, that's why there are bars to go sit and have a drink. And I can't go on too long. I have a certain amount of time for this video. So where do I go now? What direction? I think I said enough for this time slot. I can't think of anything else right now to add. So I will be back